Welcome to the Enriching Book Club, where we take the greatest ideas ever written and bring them to life for the modern mind. Which timeless masterpiece are we unlocking today? Let's find out.
Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're diving into an absolute masterpiece of 20th century literature, Chingiz Aitmatov's novel, The Day Lasts More Than 100 Years. Now, if you're thinking you know exactly what to expect from a Soviet-era novel, dreary 5-year plans and tractor quotas, well, brace yourself. Actually, scratch that. Just throw those expectations out the window. This book, it's a mind-bending, genre-defying mashup of grounded realism, ancient folklore, and, get this, science fiction. It completely flips the script on how we think about memory, tradition, and progress. So let's jump right in.
To really grasp the sheer scale of this story, we actually have to start incredibly small. Picture this: an old man, a camel-drawn cart, and a dead friend. We find ourselves out at this remote, dusty railway junction in the Kazakh steppe called Baranli-Barani, and our protagonist here is an aging railway worker named Yedige Jangeldin. Yedige has one final, very solemn mission. He's got to bury his old friend Kazangap, but not just anywhere. Tradition strictly demands that Kazangap be laid to rest at Anabit. That's a sacred ancestral cemetery located way out across the unforgiving steppe.
Now, as Yedige's slow, camel-drawn procession trudges across the landscape in the present day, the novel does something wild. It bends time. This single physical day's journey stretches out across an entire lifetime of memories. We jump decades into the past to see his grueling railway work and these deep, lifelong friendships. We shift to years ago, experiencing his unspoken, frankly tragic love for a woman named Zarapa. And we see the quiet moral struggles he faced under Soviet rule just months ago. All of this leads right back to the rhythmic, slow march of the present-day funeral. It's a profound reminder that time isn't just a straight line, right? Our past is literally walking right alongside us.
Section 1. The Legend of Naiman Ana, the moral core of the story.
So, as we travel through Yedige's memories, we plunge deep into cultural memory. We encounter this ancient Kazakh myth about the ruthless Zhuan conquerors. And guys, this is the absolute moral core of the book. See, these conquerors didn't just kill their enemies. They created something way worse, a man court. According to the myth, a man court is a captured young man who's put through a brutal, torturous process that turns him into a mindless, obedient slave. He's completely stripped of his memory and his identity. It's the total erasure of the self. And the tragedy hits absolute rock bottom when a mother, Naiman Ana, tries to rescue her man court son. Because he's been so deeply erased, he doesn't even recognize her, and he unknowingly kills his own mother.
It's a deeply harrowing legend, no doubt about it. But it perfectly illustrates exactly what Aitmatov is warning us about: cultural and historical amnesia. I mean, think about what this means for us today. What actually happens to a people, or even a whole political system, when it violently severs itself from its roots, its ancestry, and its collective memory? The man court isn't just some fairy tale character. It's a chilling metaphor for citizens who've lost their connection to their national or cultural identity and just blindly serve an indifferent system. In fact, because of this exact novel, the term mancourtism became a real, widely used political term in the post-Soviet world.
Section 2. The Collision at Anabit, Tradition versus Modernity.
After this utterly exhausting physical and emotional journey across the steppe, Yedige and his tiny funeral procession finally reach the sacred grounds, only they face a devastating, completely insurmountable roadblock. On one side, we have Anabit, the sacred ancestral cemetery, which represents tradition, reverence, and the past. But on the other side, the shocking reality of what Yedige actually finds? A cosmodrome. Yep, a massive rocket launch site representing the modern state, unchecked progress, and a highly manufactured future. The Soviet military has literally fenced off the ancestral cemetery to build this launch pad, barring the burial from even taking place. The machinery of the modern state is quite literally paving over history.
And this right here is where we really see the brilliance of Yedige's character. He's just an ordinary man. He's a railway worker, not some loud political dissident looking to start a revolution. Yet his simple, stubborn adherence to his traditional duty, just wanting to give his friend a proper burial, becomes this incredibly powerful act of quiet moral resistance. By insisting on this custom in the face of a totally indifferent, even hostile system, Aitmatov manages to smuggle in a really profound critique of Soviet modernization. He's showing us the heavy, often hidden costs of erasing indigenous Central Asian cultures, all in the name of so-called progress.
But right when you think you have a handle on what kind of story this is, Aitmatov throws a massive curveball.
Seriously, what does an ancestral burial have to do with an alien civilization? I know, it sounds totally crazy, but this is the Trojan horse of the novel. We are about to pivot from the dusty, earthly history of the Kazakh steppe to something entirely unexpected.
Section 3. The Science Fiction Frame. The Ultimate Discovery. So, while Yedigi is slowly marching his camel across the desert, we zoom way out to the absolute macro level. In the background of this super-grounded tale of a burial, there's a joint US-Soviet space program operating out of that very same cosmodrome. And they have just made the ultimate discovery: contact with a highly advanced, peaceful extraterrestrial civilization. Now, this should be the greatest moment in human history, right? A time for unprecedented growth and openness. But that is not what happens. The reaction is a superpower blockade. Instead of embracing this monumental discovery, the two earthly superpowers react with absolute terror. Operating entirely out of self-interest and a deep-seated fear of losing control over their populations, the US and the USSR actually team up. They build a massive orbital blockade, sealing Earth off entirely from any contact with the aliens.
Now, what is truly brilliant here is how Aitmatov connects these two seemingly unrelated plots. At the local level, we've got the Soviet state. It fears its own ancestral past, so what does it do? It builds barbed wire fences around a sacred cemetery. But at the global level, we have Earth's superpowers. They fear an unknown alien future, so they build a literal orbital blockade in space. It is the exact same impulse. The macro perfectly mirrors the micro.
Aitmatov is showing us that this is a universal human pathology of fear-driven self-isolation. The danger of becoming a man-court, a mindless, isolated entity completely stripped of connection. It isn't just a localized Kazakh issue. It's a universal human threat. Whether you're a government paving over a cemetery or a global superpower blocking out the stars, when you operate entirely out of fear and isolation, you're essentially enforcing a kind of global amnesia.
Section 4. A unique literary hybrid. Concentric meanings.
Let's take a quick second to synthesize the sheer genius of what Aitmatov has accomplished here. He hasn't just written a story, he's woven these concentric layers of meaning that rely entirely on each other to deliver their full impact. First up, we have the realist Soviet layer, focusing on Yedigi's everyday railway life. This gives us a really intimate look at grounded moral resistance. Next, we have the Kazakh folklore layer, focusing on the horrifying Mankurt myth, which acts as a dire cultural warning. And finally, the science fiction layer, focusing on the US and USSR space program, elevating the whole theme to a massive global existential scale. By blending these three totally distinct genres, Aitmatov managed to make profound political points about memory, state control, and identity that straight realism simply couldn't achieve on its own. He effectively bypassed censorship by wrapping his critique in myth and space travel. Pretty smart, right?
So as we wrap up this explainer today, I really want to leave you with one powerful question to chew on. What happens to a society today that severs itself from its memory and roots? The tragedy of the Mankurt isn't just locked away in some Soviet-era novel or an ancient steppe myth. In our current age of rapid modernization, digital amnesia, and shifting identities, Aitmatov's warning is arguably more urgent now than it was when he first wrote it. Just think about the fences we build today, both physical and ideological, just to avoid confronting our past or our future. Take that question with you, and thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredible work.